Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot accuse the establishment of not thinking big. Terraforming the planet, controlling the weather, and then keeping us like ignorant savages that don't even know what the sun is. And then Holdren talking about putting up satellites and blocking out the sun and all this craziness. The point is they want to play God. They want you to live in an engineered society. There's an article out of a mainstream magazine in the 1940s, We Can Control the Weather. And it describes exactly how they do it. And there is a massive program of this going on. This is 1944. And just incredible. Absolutely incredible. And it gets into cloud seeding. I want to play the White House czar, a clip from the Associated Press. This is not Alex Jones saying this. I want to play this clip of John P. Holdren, the eugenicist. And he is a eugenicist, there's no doubting. Just like in Endgame, I accused the head of the Human Genome Project of being a eugenicist because I'd read his writings. No one had ever publicly called him one. And then a year after Endgame came out, it came out that Mr. Watson said blacks weren't human, were basically subhuman. And now it's come out they are taking your blood at birth for 36 years illegally for the Human Genome Project. It's a giant eugenics front. Sure, they can get some secondary science from it, and I think it's fine, but they're using it for race-specific bioweapon development. We're going to get Dr. Michael Coffman's take on that and some of the things he's been fighting in this Clean Water Restoration Act that federalizes anything that has water above or below ground, puddles of water, and the Rewilding Act and these wilderness corridors on the rivers. That's all coming up. But here is Holdren to the AP. And notice on the video in the background by the American flag on the shelf is Ecoscience, the textbook he wrote for government. A plan of a planetary tyranny to sterilize you. Here it is.
We have to look at it very carefully because we might get desperate enough to want to use it. The danger, of course, with geoengineering is the one I was referring to a moment ago. We don't understand the system well enough to predict its responses in detail, and that means there's always a danger if you try to engineer the system on a large scale that you will do something that has side effects that are worse than the dimension of the problem you're trying to cure with the geoengineering in the first place. There are a variety of schemes that have been discussed for geoengineering. A classic example is injecting reflecting particles into Earth orbit that would deflect some of the sunlight that would otherwise be warming the Earth, and in that way try to produce a cooling effect to offset the heating effect of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases.
All right, let's stop right there. You can watch the rest of the clip up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. But understand, for over a decade, we found some government documents about high-altitude spraying, these aerosol campaigns. People call them chemtrails. We got called kooks, and there are some kooks that point at a regular ice trail and, say it is a trail when it isn't. But trails at 2,000 feet don't condensate and sit there and get bigger for 5 hours. Real ice trails, real contrails disappear in just a few minutes. There's a massive program going on, and they admit it. Now, if you just Google these terms, all these universities, Department of Energy, NASA brags, oh, look, the Earth's 20% darker, satellite photos of the whole country covered. They really are Revenge of the Nerds scientists who happen to be eugenicists on wild power trips, Dr. Michael Coffman.
Again, there's no question of that. It's just phenomenal. When you get back to the chemtrail issues, I'm not an expert on chemtrails, but what I do know is that they're high enough elevation that they actually form kind of a cirrus cloud formation. Now, if you know the politics and the science of global warming, man-caused global warming, this is what they have predicted right from the very beginning. It's inherent in every single climate model that there is that about 6 miles in elevation, what you find is that more cirrus clouds are formed which trap the heat. It's a positive feedback mechanism. I'm not going to get more complicated than that or you won't understand it. But
no, the Earth needs this as its shield. Go ahead and give people the science.
It basically says that now, first of all, you have to understand that carbon dioxide itself cannot trap much more heat. Very, very small percentage, a couple percent, and that's about it. Because it's the wavelengths, the wave bands that it traps heat in are already saturated, so it cannot do much more. Therefore, the little that it does do, they claim, are going to create more clouds, more thunderstorms, which when they decay, they create more cirrus clouds. Cirrus clouds trap the heat. Low elevation rain clouds reflect the heat, or the sun. Just the opposite. It's a negative feedback. And a positive feedback in the cirrus clouds, the radiation emitted by the Earth is trapped again and remitted down. That means that the upper atmosphere heats faster than the Earth's surface. And this is well explained in our second DVD, the Emerging Science, Global Warming Emerging Science DVD that Alex now has. It is absolutely night and day. What the models predict was going to happen the last 40 to 50 years, and what has actually happened, they're not the same at all. It's
now,
like
Dr. Coffman, explain this to me, though, because there's other big major films like the Great Global Warming Swindle. They have all these climatologists and scientists and physicists from around the world, literally the top names. There's now 37,000 of them have sent a letter and petition to the government. The government won't even read it, won't allow them in testimony. Only Al Gore, who lies and says he invented everything from Kitty Hawk to, to fire, is the only expert up there. He openly owns one of the carbon companies and said, "What's wrong with me making money?" I mean, it's the outrageousness of this. But also they say it's not just the heat from the sun; it's that different type of nuclei, particles, come into the atmosphere. Can you explain that?
Yes, there's two, and it's again explained in much better graphics than it did in the first one in this new Emerging Science DVD. Really shows very clearly it's not the total amount of energy that the sun emits, but the kind of energy. You have incoming cosmic radiation from exploding supernovae from out in the galaxy and so forth that eventually get to Earth. Those, and it's been shown in experiments now to be correct, those cosmic radiation particles, when they enter the Earth's surface or enter the Earth's atmosphere, they start to condense out and ionize and create water droplets. When they create water droplets, clouds eventually form, and when you have clouds, low elevation clouds, if you've ever flown an airplane above these clouds, it is a bright white. That's because the sun is reflecting off of those clouds.
Now, let me understand. So it's almost like just the space rays, not just the sun's rays, and this whole spectrum of different particles come in like microscopic meteorites and create almost a energy field, which then generates the nuclei to allow the rain droplets to form. So it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful engine. It's not a crime. And carbon dioxide's what plants breathe. It's not a chemical weapon that'll kill you. Water's good. Oxygen's good. It's not with Al-Qaeda.
Absolutely. In fact, we can probably have 300 to 400% increase in our carbon dioxide, and the Earth would be much better off for it. Both plant productivity, food production, and it will not hurt us.
In fact, I've seen those studies that during some of the warming periods with the dinosaurs were the most plentiful, that it was many times higher, and that the Earth was much more tropical.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably about 10 times greater concentration during that period of time. And the Earth was much more tropical. Vegetation was flourishing and abundant. And every time, in fact, the science has actually shown that there's been a 12% increase in food production, global food production, because of the increased carbon dioxide we've had the last 50 years. There's nothing negative about carbon dioxide. It's all positive, but yet they're calling it a pollutant, and because it's a pollutant, then they can control our lives.
But I've done the dihydrogen monoxide joke with people at restaurants on the street, and I tend to go out with a camera and do it because you can say, hey, we need to restrict carbon dioxide, right? And they go, yes, it's evil. And I go, what about dihydrogen monoxide? It's in the water. And almost every adult, even people in suits downtown, will go, yes, ban it. It's water. I assure the viewers, people that support this, that water is not bad.
Absolutely. It is amazing. We have been so sensitized in our educational process that anything chemical is bad for us. Well, I'm afraid anything that we eat, drink, or otherwise is chemical, and the fact that we have this aversion to the name chemical is been ingrained in us in our educational process, in the television ads, all the rest of it, so that we just recoil away from it, and we shouldn't. We have to understand what it is and then treat it accordingly.
But what about the brainwashing? Did you know that there are scores of video games where the zombies are carbon dioxide blobs and the kids shoot them, and then it's just total brainwashing in the schools? And the New York Times reports that kids go home and write mock tickets to their mother because they take a hot bath, and the mother goes, I'm glad they're ordering me around this. I mean, they're turning us into a total Stasi society. What about the Green Bill with the home inspections and the federal language about they can kick you out of your house, no judge, no jury? Just, I mean, this is total tyranny.
It is total tyranny, and you and I have, and others, have been warning the people for 15 years or more about this very thing. It's now right in front of us, and we have the last opportunity to stop it by calling your congressmen and senators and saying, no, I'm going to throw you out of office if you vote for these things. And there's just not one thing. There's a dozen of them out there. It would be best if we just shut down Congress and they didn't do anything for 4 years.